France enters a third national lockdown for a month. We have Febeleen Calpo of our EBC France Bureau with that story. Febeleen, tell us more.
Hello, CJ.
Hello,
Okay.
Febeleen.
Good. Bonsoir. President Emmanuel Macron on Wednesday ordered France into its third national lockdown and said schools would close for 3 weeks as he sought to push back a third wave of COVID-19 infections that threatens to overwhelm hospitals. With the death toll nearing 100,000 intensive care units in the hardest hit regions at breaking point and slower than planned vaccine rollout, Macron was forced to abandon his goal of keeping the country open to protect the economy. We will lose control if we do not move now, the president said in a televised address to the nation. His announcement means that movement restrictions already in place for more than a week in Paris, in some northern and southern regions, will now apply to the whole country for at least a month from Saturday. Departing from his pledge to safeguard education from the pandemic, Macron said schools will close for 3 weeks after this weekend. But the former investment bankers' options narrowed as more contagious strains of the coronavirus swept across France in much of Europe. For school children after this weekend, learning will be done remotely for a week, after which schools go on a 2-week holiday, which for most of the country will be earlier than scheduled. Thereafter, nursery and primary pupils will return to school, while middle and high school pupils continue distance learning for an extra week. It is the best solution to slow down the virus, Macron said, adding that France has succeeded in keeping its schools open for longer during the pandemic than many neighbors. Faster vaccination. Daily new infections in France has doubled since February to average nearly 40,000. The number of COVID-19 patients in intensive care has reached 5,000, exceeding the peak hit during a 6-week-long lockdown late last year. Bed capacity in critical care units will be increased to 10,000, Macron said. The new lockdown risks slowing the pace of France's economic recovery from last year's slump. It will force the temporary closure of 150,000 businesses at a cost of 11 billion euros, $12.89 billion per month, the finance ministry said. The setback for France, the Eurozone's second largest economy, may also dampen Europe's hopes of bouncing back swiftly from the pandemic, in the way that the US and Chinese economies are doing. France's new lockdown underlines the cost of the European Union's slow rollout of anti-COVID vaccines. Macron said the vaccine campaign needed to be accelerated, mired early on in red tape and slowed by supply shortages. It is only now finding its stride 3 months in, with just 12% of the population inoculated. Bringing the calendar forward, Macron said people in their 60s will be eligible for a shot from mid-April, and those in their 50s a month later. A goal of 30 million adults inoculated by mid-June remained the target, he said. Seeking to offer hope, Macron said the April lockdown and a swifter vaccination campaign would allow the slow reopening of the country from mid-May, starting with museums and the outdoor terraces of bars and restaurants, albeit under strict rules. We can see a way of this crisis, Macron said. Back to you, CJ.
Well, thank you so much, Febeleen. I just have a quick question. Since the end of January, the specialists or most of the specialists there in France have been demanding for strong measures to combat the virus. would you say France lost 2 months of or in the fight against the pandemic since the country ignored those calls by specialists?
Yes, CJ. In defense of the health strategy adopted in January, the head of state stated that the restrictions had been less severe in France than elsewhere. Many of our neighbors decided to contain 4 months ago. For example, our German neighbors, he argued, adding that our Italian friends are in their fourth confinement. According to him, France won precious days of freedom during this period without ever losing control of the epidemic. Back to you, CJ.
All right, thank you so much, Febeleen, for your report coming out of France. Please do take care over there and keep us updated on the latest happenings there.
Yes, thank you, CJ. I am Febeleen Calpo from France Bureau, reporting for Eagle News International. We live in interesting times.